and welcome to ET Now Startup Central, India's first and only daily show dedicated to startups, technology and entrepreneurship. I'm Chandra Shrikant coming to you live from India's startup capital, Bengaluru. And the story that we start with is something that matters to all of us, that has a lot of smartphone users in India concerned, because many people today said they mysteriously found this contact preloaded in their phones under the name UIDAI. So a lot of people checked their phones and under UIDAI, they found this number 1800 300 1947. It's an 11-digit number. The UIDAI has clarified that this is not their valid helpline number. Their valid helpline number is 1947. This number has been invalid for 2 years. So where did this come from? UIDAI itself has washed its hands off, saying that they did not ask any device maker or cellular operator to include this. On the other hand, cellular operators are also saying that they have nothing to do with this. So if both of them have nothing to do with it, is there more that meets the eye here? Do they owe a more detailed explanation? Let me bring on an expert voice on the show. Pavan Dugal, someone who knows the area of cybersecurity very well, joins us on the phone line from Delhi. Mr. Dugal, what do you make of this? Both the UIDAI and the cellular operators have washed their hands off the issue, saying that it did not come from them. What then explains this number preloaded on many phones in India?
Well, my assessment is it's in continuation of the events that have happened last week. The open challenge that was thrown in cyberspace, that no harm can be done using Aadhaar, is now repeatedly being taken up by various state and non-state actors, and consequently this particular episode that's happened is a continuation in that particular direction, where once the UIDAI and the telecom service operators say that they have got nothing to do with this, clearly there are some other state and non-state actors who are behind this, who are wanting to show that Aadhaar is not safe and that people need to be extremely careful when they go about dealing with Aadhaar, because they have been able to actually exploit these vulnerabilities.
Sir, I'm sorry, I don't agree with your assessment. What does this have to do with your and my Aadhaar numbers? We didn't put it in the public domain. It was only R.S. Sharma who put his Aadhaar number in the public domain. I mean, I don't think this should become an Aadhaar debate here. What explains this? Did UIDAI give this helpline to telecom service providers and ask them to add it to telecom subscribers? Because obviously people were linking mobile numbers to Aadhaar. I mean, what does this have to do with R.S. Sharma's dare? Or is it a ploy by hackers to discredit UIDAI somehow? Because the Aadhaar database is still safe.
Please understand, the Aadhaar database is safe, but different stakeholders are wanting to discredit the Aadhaar ecosystem. And when you see this particular attack as an attempt to discredit the ecosystem, then things start falling into place. You know, you and I have not put your Aadhaar numbers online, but if they are able to show this, that people without putting their Aadhaar numbers online can still be targeted using the vulnerability in the Android system, then I think it's a cause for worry. It's a cause for us to do introspection and to see how this has happened. Now, the answer for that needs to be squarely lying in the court of UIDAI. UIDAI has to show how this has happened if they claim that the Aadhaar ecosystem is 100% safe, which clearly it is not. In fact, just such time you are only limiting your discussion to the central identity.
Mr. Dugal, sorry, I have to cut you. I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you again. You know, you said it's an Android weakness, but there are many people who own Apple devices who are saying that they also find this number in their contact book. So, you know, while there's this conspiracy theory of a cyber attack and, Chinese handset phones, my larger point is, was this just an instruction from the UIDAI to cellular operators? And now both of them are not coming out and clarifying. It could have nothing to do with a hack or with you and me and our phone numbers and Aadhaar in the public domain.
I completely agree. What you're saying also has logical sense. So who is the relevant legal entity who has to clarify this? This is the UIDAI. So UIDAI has just washed off its hands, saying it's not connected with it. However, merely saying that is not going to happen, because the UIDAI is the administrator of the entire Aadhaar ecosystem and also the central identities data repository. So investigations will have to be done to find out what is the real cause of this, how this got caused. but clearly the answers have to lie at the door of UIDAI. And its current tweet does not really give you any concrete answers in that particular regard. In either way, whether you look at Android or Apple, this is a cyber security breach that's happened on the devices of individual users. And that being so, this is serious enough for us to sit up and take notice. And this has not happened earlier. And if this happened today, why did it happen? Who's behind it? And what can we do to protect the Aadhaar account holders? At the end of the day, it's a collective responsibility of India as a nation so that we can beef up the so-called loopholes in the Aadhaar ecosystem and make it more cyber resilient and cyber safe.
Mr. Dugal, I have one final question. Give me a very quick answer. This is for everyone, my colleagues, viewers who have seen this number in their phone book. What should they do next? What precautions should they take? Should they just delete it? Should they, I'm just wondering what you would advise them to do from a security perspective, people who have found this number in their phone book.
I think currently a good thing will be just try to not fiddle with it, because we don't know what kind of a computer contaminant it's likely to potentially release. If you want to delete it, well, typically deletion should be a good idea, but we don't exactly know what kind of a paradigm that we are dealing with. So it will be a good idea to await for some more details before investigation can tell us what this is. But in any case, it's a thumb rule. Please do not call on that number. Please do not disclose your Aadhaar number, because disclosure of Aadhaar number is an offense under the Aadhaar Act. Do not contribute in making Aadhaar more insecure and making it more vulnerable. I think that's the due diligence and the caution mantra that I would like to give to all users, just as time we await more information in this regard.
On that note, Mr. Dugal, thank you so much for joining us and for giving that advice to viewers. I'm afraid I've already violated that by calling that helpline number, because we had to find out what this number is all about. But those of you who find this number in your contact books, please do not fiddle with it. Like Pavan Dugal says, we do not have adequate information at this point. So the lesser we fiddle with it, the better. Who knows what you're calling that number could trigger. So that's a precaution coming in from cybersecurity expert and lawyer Pavan Dugal. But moving on to the next big story that happened overnight, and this was Apple crossing the 1 trillion mark in valuation, becoming the first US company to do so and the second publicly listed company worldwide to cross that mark. Remember, the first company that achieved $1 trillion valuation was PetroChina way back in 2007. But after that, it saw immense value and wealth destruction. So I don't think the two are comparable. To really understand what the Apple rise means for entrepreneurs, for India, we have a special guest on the show. We have Kris Gopalakrishnan, the co-founder of Infosys, who's a very active startup investor now. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on Startup Central. Just want to start by asking you what you made of that $1 trillion valuation that Apple's managed to clock.
So clearly, congratulations to Apple. It's good to see a company in the tech sector achieve this milestone. It will inspire other companies to actually reach similar milestones, and I expect now that the barrier has been reached, threshold has been reached, other companies will also now start reaching $1 trillion size, market cap size. See, this is, I think, something which I believe shows the world the opportunity that exists. I expect the global GDP to double over the next 15 years. If the global economy is growing around 3 to 5%, it will double over the next 20 years or maybe even 15 years, which means that many more companies are going to hit the $1 trillion market cap in the future.
Right. Mr. Gopalakrishnan, do you think this rise is all the more momentous considering Apple was almost on the brink of bankruptcy and failure? Steve Jobs was kicked out. He then had to come back and revive Apple. In fact, I remember Michael Dell's famous quote where he said, I think in 1997, that, if I were the CEO of Apple, I would shut it down and give the money back to shareholders. See,
this is why Apple is respected world over. Steve Jobs is an inspiration to a generation of entrepreneurs, business people, considered as a business guru, because from almost closed down, they have come back to become the most valuable company in the world. And that shows that if you have the right leadership, the right strategy, and the right set of products, right execution, I think Apple, I believe, is a fantastic execution engine. Anything is possible, and recovery is an amazing story for business people.
A lot of comparisons on the value that was added under Tim Cook vis-a-vis Steve Jobs, at least in terms of the shareholder wealth. Is that a fair apple-to-apple comparison, pun intended? Because Apple is riding on all the products launched during the Jobs era. So, what would you say to that?
See, each company is different. You have to have some luck. I think Apple became lucky, I also believe, being at the right place at the right time. When they introduced the iPod, Steve Jobs was supposed to have said that I will sell 300,000 units, but it became an amazing success, and that's the start of the revival. Actually, Steve Jobs introduced a music player before that, which failed. His second attempt, he succeeded. So these are, I think, business cases to study.
Would you say then, Mr. Gopalakrishnan, that Tim Cook has perhaps succeeded in increasing the total addressable market for Apple? And, contrary to initial expectations, Apple Watch is also doing very well. What would your assessment be?
Any company will have to look at introducing new products. On one side, they have to look at technology and keeping up with the latest in technology. And the other side, they have to look at new applications, which are the new products. I think Apple has been very good, but they have also stayed focused. They have not come out with large number of products. So they have a small set of products. Within that, they have come out with continuous innovation, and that's the beauty of Apple.
Is it going to be a services story for Apple then? Is that going to be the next big push?
That I cannot answer, but Apple has provided services in a very innovative way. The whole how they have converted music into a subscription service is where they really started to take off. When they introduced the iPod, if iTunes was not there, I don't know whether iPod would have taken off. So that combination of having a user product and a service is what I believe Apple really benefited from, and many people don't realize the importance of iTunes, but I strongly believe that iTunes has been the key to the success of the products that Apple launched. Of course, later on, the App Store concept, where you can download software as a subscription over the internet. Again, these are all innovations that actually were introduced along with the product, and that's what brought success to Apple.
Are you surprised by the patchy growth that it's seen in India? I mean, India used to find prominent mention in Tim Cook's earnings calls, but the growth has declined in the last quarter because they've refocused the brand as a premium product. Will India ever be a big market for Apple?
See, Apple is a premium product. It really meets the aspirations at the high end. What is important, I believe, is for every price point there's a market in India. Maybe it's only about 50 million people, but that is actually larger than many countries, and that's why Apple is reasonably well entrenched into Indian market. Of course, in order to grow, they will have to look at lower price products, which is what they are doing with SE and things like that. But Apple is a premium product.
Before we let you go then, can India produce a $1 trillion market cap company? We saw TCS cross the $100 billion mark, Reliance cross the $100 billion mark. Will the $1 trillion company from India also come from the tech space? Because if you look at the majority of the companies in the US valued at above 800 billion, all of them are in tech. Is that going to be the area that's going to give us a $1 trillion market cap company?
If you ask me as an industry person, I want it to happen. I believe that we must endeavor, we must aspire for that. Which company, when, I think time only will tell. We have the market size, we have the smart people, we have the business leadership, so why not?
No, thank you so much for talking to ET Now. For those who don't know, Kris Gopalakrishnan is a huge enthusiast himself of Apple products, and he's known to snap up the latest variations and upgrades that Apple puts out in the market of all its devices. I'm sure he owns all of them. But thank you so much, sir, for all that perspective as an entrepreneur, as an investor. On that note, we'll take a short break, but on the other side of Startup Central, we tell you about the government's plans to drop its agenda for a social media hub, and we also bring you a conversation with Kris Gale on the other side of Startup Central. Welcome back to ET Now Startup Central. Now another important story in a U-turn of sorts. The government today told the Supreme Court that it has withdrawn plans to create a social media hub. Now remember, this had come in for criticism a few days back from the top court itself, which questioned the government's move to create a surveillance hub of sorts. It also led to widespread concern that this could be used to monitor online activities of people. It led to a massive political backlash, with the TMC MLA or MP also protesting against this. Now, subsequent to that, the centre has told the Supreme Court today that they have withdrawn the proposal to create a social media hub. They will conduct a complete review of the policy, and they had also planned to collect and analyze social media content. So clearly the government, embarrassed by this whole episode, concerns that of creating a surveillance state, has forced the government to really withdraw this controversial policy. But it's a Friday evening, and what's Friday without some action in sports or films? We have a very special voice from the world of sports this evening for you. We're talking about cricketer Kris Gale. Now, he spoke to my colleague Nayantara Rai in Delhi about everything from Virat Kohli's magic done yesterday in England that everybody's been raving about. He also put up a poker face for her and also spoke to her about his other favorite players. Thank you so much for watching Startup Central, and here are Kris Gale.
I'm here for poker, not for cricket. Rarely you see someone, well, a cricketer come here not playing cricket in India and then doing some other obligation. But yes, I'm with Aadhaar. 52. It's good to be associated with the brand. And, you know, like I said, as a cricketer, you know, we all play poker. It's not like we're going for the big tournaments, but we play poker for fun. You know, play it a lot, and, you know, so they see it fit to actually, you know, brought me on board and then to be associated with the brands.
Did you see the captain's knock, Virat Kohli's knock?
Yeah, I saw it yesterday while I finished the shoot. I picked it up when he was, they were actually maybe 6 to 7 wickets down. I can't remember, but it was a fantastic knock on, you know, they're saying that Kohli didn't get any runs in England. So this is a brilliant start for him from a captain point of view, from a personal point of view as well. And, you know, give the team a chance to actually win this first test match as well. Today is a crucial day within the test match. So, you know, hopefully it's 50-50 for me.
Virat Kohli or MS Dhoni? Who's the better one?
In terms of what?
Cricket.
Well, yeah, I never played with MS Dhoni, but, you know, both of them are two legends, to be honest with you. And it's not a situation where I'm going to put one in front of one, because MS Dhoni achievement within the game is fantastic and superb, and the same goes with Virat as well.
Is Kris Gale's favorite cricketer right now? I'm sure you would have said Kris Gale, so I said you're not allowed to say yourself.
No, I don't have favorite cricketers, to be honest with you. I respect cricketers. You know, I give cricketers credit when it's due. you know. So it's not a situation where I say, okay, that's my favorite cricketer. I mean, as a youngster, you know, I used to watch cricket. I know I only used to watch Brian Lara at that particular time. But for me, while playing the game, I don't really have a favorite cricketer. I like entertainers in the game of cricket. You know, like guys who more explosive as a batting point of view. Those guys I would love to watch. You know, so those are the things.
So these days, who is the entertainer?
I mean, you have some exciting youngsters, to be honest with you. And, you know, the captain, Virat Kohli, is an entertainer, for sure. KL Rahul is definitely an entertainer. Rohit Sharma is an entertainer. Joe Root. There's so many guys out there, you know, capable of entertaining.